Owen is with us, as is Neil Treacy, which means that it's time for the Type 5. Neil, how are you?
I'm very well, guys. How are you doing?
Good. Where are we starting?
We're going to start a bit of Tadhg craftiness. So I'm going to say craftiness as well, with a huge degree of self-awareness, because this is craftiness in the... Do you know on the BBC when Harry Kane wins a penalty and they say, "Oh, that was clever play by Harry Kane there," rather than actually pointing out that he, completely floundered all the rules in the book. In short, here basically, Tadhg Beirne, this is an example of him basically mugging off England and the referee Matthew Raynell. So yeah, this is at a really crucial point in the game too. Right after the start of the second half, Ireland 14 points up. England started the second half really well, won an early penalty, kicked it down into the corner for a 5-metre line out. And look, if they score a try here, it's a 7-point game potentially with pretty much the entire second half to go. Could be a very, very different situation. But as we can see here on our first picture in front of us, I'm going to ask you, Ger, as well, because I know you can see this in front of you. What do you see here? I'm going to see if you've done your homework over the last couple of weeks of Type 5s.
I see the English doing that thing that Tadhg Beirne was getting pinged for, where Tom Curry's on the wrong side of the person who's caught the ball.
Correct, Ger. Gold star for you. So that's right. That's our good old friend obstruction over the last couple of weeks. Something Ireland were caught a couple of times with against Italy and against Scotland as well last week. So Charlie Ewels has taken the line out. Tom Curry's obstructing the Irish defenders. Carbon copy, as we said, of what we pointed out Ireland doing. So now let's put up our second picture. This is the reverse angle. So we can flip it around. We can see Charlie Ewels is in the air. Tom Curry is lifting him from the back. And there's Tadhg Beirne with his arms wrapped around Tom Curry. So straight away, like that's taking out a lifter. That is a penalty all day in the book. So if we move on to our third picture, what we can see here is what Tadhg Beirne has actually done is he has bound onto Tom Curry as he's still lifting, and when they've hit the ground, he has actually dragged Tom Curry in behind Charlie Ewels to pretty much paint the picture of Tom Curry obstructing the Irish defenders. So it looks like obstruction all day long, but it's completely manufactured by Tadhg Beirne. And Matthew Raynell, unfortunately for him, bought it all day. Well, I say all day, bought it on that one, straight up. And penalty Ireland, cleared the lines. It's the type of dark arts, and it's the type of craftiness that you would have seen the likes of Richie McCaw get away with so often. Look, it's completely against the rules. Completely against the rules. But That's what you.
One of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. It's like it's absolute sheer, unadulterated genius. Hook this to my veins, Neil Treacy.
Yeah,
and look to my veins, Tadhg Beirne. This is like, make this man the king of Ireland.
It's the ability that he's developed over the last couple of years as well to do this sort of stuff and get away with it. Like it's the mark of all great. I say back rows. Okay, officially he was playing second row, but it's it's what you think of when you think of a great seven. A great open side flanker, the ability to just do that sort of stuff and consistently get away with it. What I can't understand is how he manages to get away with those things wearing a bright blue scrum cap, because he's the most identifiable player on the pitch when he does it as well. But look, completely got away with it. It was obviously a calculated moment to try it. It could have been very, very costly if they got pinged, but they didn't, so it was a great decision. And look,
I suggest that we club together to get him a camo scrum cap, so that he's invisible. It's like an invisible shield. That, like, we could all chip together a $5 each. The lads in the YouTube comments can do that, and we'll send one to him and say, "Here, listen, we like what you do. Just don't get caught."
Think of all the things he could do if he wasn't easily identifiable as well. And look, I said self-awareness at the start as well. If England had done this to Ireland and it cost us a try 5 metres from the line, we would be up in arms about it. I would be here pointing out this disgraceful English behaviour. And how Ireland were absolutely robbed of a try, but Ireland got away with it, so it was really good.
Yeah, they're not
more Tadhg Beirne.
More Tadhg Beirne. We have a second one. This time, clever play, but not illegal. This is just really, really good work from Tadhg Beirne, and I suppose from Johnny Sexton making the kick, and from Ian Henderson and Tadhg Furlong, who have to kind of time their runs as well to go with it. So the context of this, England have just scored to make it 10-6. Ireland about to restart the game. End result of this is going to be an Ireland scrum. They turn over the ball, which was then turned into a penalty for Mako Vunipola collapsing, and that became 3 points for Ireland to make it 13-6. So this first picture, we're looking at two things to look at. First being our pot of 3 forwards circled in the yellow. Top of the circle is Tig Byrne. Below him is Furlong. And then Ian Henderson is below that. They're going to be running straight out full tilt. But we need to have someone a bit faster chasing that up as well. So we've got Jacob Stockdale with the big blue arrow. He's going to make a beeline for Maro Itoje, where Ireland are trying to drop that ball. So basically it's kind of a two-pronged way of approaching it. Jacob Stockdale is going to be first up. If England don't lift Maro Itoje, or if someone else catches the ball, you have someone a bit quicker to get up there. If England go for a lift, which is obviously a much slower process, you've got the heavy artillery in the likes of Tig Byrne, Ian Henderson and Tig Furlong as well. So we're going to go to our second slide, kick-off 2. So as you can see, they lifted Itoje. That black arrow basically is Jacob Stockdale. He just runs by, he gets out of the way once he knows, because he's going at full speed. If he collides with those forwards, Ireland are in trouble. So he just gets out of the way and runs past. But what I want to look at is the plan here is for those 3 players, Tig Byrne, Tig Furlong and Ian Henderson, to basically engulf Maro Itoje. So the red arrow looping around the back, that's where Tig Furlong is going to run in behind the lifting pod of England and try latch onto the ball and latch onto Maro Itoje and hold him up. Whereas the 2 yellow arrows, Tig Furlong on the right and Ian Henderson at the bottom of the screen, they're going to come from the forward. But the timing here has to be absolutely perfect, because first, they have to wait for Itoje to come to the ground. Obviously, they can't touch him in the air. That would be a penalty to England. But also, they need to make sure as well that Tig Byrne touches Itoje or any of those English players before Tig Furlong and Ian Henderson do. Because if Furlong and Ian Henderson latch onto those players as soon as they hit the ground before Tig Byrne gets out, we might just get the picture back up again. That one, yeah, we'll just get that back up again. So if either of those 2 players touches the English pod before Tig Byrne does, that creates a maul, and that means there's an offside line, which means that Tig Byrne can't go around. So Tig Byrne has to be in there beforehand, because until an Irish player touches it, a maul isn't formed and there isn't going to be an offside line. So
famously, this was something that the Italians used to do against the English in their line out a couple of years ago, when they would run around the line out and tackle from the back. Wasn't that one of the first times we saw this?
Yeah,
Conor O'Shea.
Yeah, it's been done with lineouts. Italy did it actually even specifically around rucks. They just weren't setting up a ruck. As soon as the tackle was made, they were retreating and someone was coming in around the back. But we'll move on to our next picture here. You're going to have to trust me on this, because it's like, basically this is just it timed to perfection. So it's pretty much all 3 of them are touching Maro Itoje and those English players right at the exact same time. So we can even go on to the other one, which is the reverse angle. Tig Byrne has looped around and come in behind Maro Itoje and just got straight onto the ball, as you can see. And you can see Tig Furlong reaching over as well. It's all just about really, really good timing, really, really good teamwork. And also as well, it has to be said, an excellent kick from Johnny Sexton, because you get a huge amount of hang time up there for those guys to come around, and for Tig Byrne even to be able to navigate around that corner. And basically, after that, it's just wrapping yourself around them like a boa constrictor, holding things up. The maul goes to ground, Ireland win a scrum, then they win a penalty, and it's 3 more points to Ireland. So on our next point then, it got us thinking about the Irish kick-off and their restart setup. So on that last turnover, as I was saying, it felt like Ireland were kind of targeting that move, that they knew that Tig Byrne would basically have that little corner to come around, that there wouldn't be an English player blocking there, kind of guarding the door as such. So I wanted to have a look at how the sides were setting up. So if we move on to our kickoff 5 slide, as we can see, that this is how England were setting up for kickoffs and restarts. Essentially, they have 2 pods of forwards, one on either side of the pitch. The red circle, as you can see at the top, and then the one at the bottom, which is Itoje in the middle, and Luke Cowan-Dickey and Kyle Sinclair are his lifters. Owen Farrell then is kind of sitting in the middle of those 2 pods, just kind of guarding the 10-metre line in case there's a short kick. So I want to look at those arrows specifically, those 2 yellow arrows. And apologies for anyone listening to this rather than watching it, but you can watch back the video streams on YouTube and Periscope as well. So they are basically reacting to Maro Itoje like they did. As soon as Itoje moves towards it, they will move towards him and lift it. But what that does is, at the front of Maro Itoje is Luke Cowan-Dickey. So once he moves back towards Itoje, that is basically leaving quite a big gap for someone like Tig Byrne to run into. Ideally, Owen Farrell would be getting back into that space to create even just some bit of traffic, not even just completely blocking him off, but giving him something to navigate before he can get around that corner. Of other teams, Wales have a similar setup to that as well. France have something similar-ish, but they have another player in that midfield space kind of around where Owen Farrell would be. So they have another bit of another player for someone to navigate if they want to get through. Scotland and Ireland have very similar setups, as we're going to see with Ireland here now. So what Ireland have is completely different. They have, if we move on to our next slide there, Emma, please. Yeah, so this is Ireland's setup. As you can see, there are actually 4 pods going across the pitch, 4 two-man pods. The top one on the far side of the screen, that is Tadhg Furlong and Ian Henderson. Below them then is CJ Stander and Rob Herring. Then below that is Bundyaki and Josh van der Fleer. So they are more than likely going to be the bit of speed up there as well. So in case there is a kick towards the 10 metre line, just a little short chip, that they can get up there and cover that space. And then below them on the near touch line, you have Tadhg Byrne and Dave Kilcoyne. So the logic would be if the ball goes towards Byrne, Kilcoyne can lift him, one man, get him up in the air. Josh van der Fleer can then come from pod number 3 and support. If it goes to the other side of the pitch, Ian Henderson will probably be lifted by Tadhg Furlong, and one of the other pods, Rob Herring and CJ Stander, can move across to help out. If it goes central to either of those 2 central pods, as you can see, you have Jack Conan standing on the 22. He can kind of just float in between and get to each one. It just seems a little bit more adaptable, and it means that you probably have more players in that line to get in the way of the opposition and just create half a second more for someone if the ball goes deeper.
Neil, who designs this?
I suppose looking at the coaching setup, that one I wouldn't be too certain of. That would probably be a collective decision. Like off the top of my head, it wouldn't specifically be falling into anyone's specific brief. I would say there's a
bit. Is that technically defence?
Probably.
How you receive a kickoff?
I would say it possibly comes in under that, yeah. I honestly wouldn't know who would be specifically in charge of that. But, like, do you get the point there that there is 1 or 2 more bodies to be able to kind of create a little bit of traffic, and each pod can kind of help out the other one when needed?
There's obviously weaknesses and strengths to both of them. So if you say, for example, you've got, did you say Furlong lifting Henderson? That's like Furlong obviously unbelievably strong, so I'm sure he's capable of doing it. But Henderson's a big beast. Is there any weakness that the opposition can exploit in terms of you're less protected because you've got fewer bodies, or is it about the speed at which your own cavalry arrives?
Yeah, it's probably down to your own application of it and the speed that they arrive. Like the likes of, I think most props are generally able to hoist their player into the air, because Henderson and Tadhg Byrne, as example of those 2 main jumpers, like they will be able to get themselves into the air, and you'd see it a lot. Tadhg Furlong would have absolutely no problems whatsoever giving Ian Henderson or giving Tadhg Byrne or whoever his second row is, James Ryan, giving them that bit of assistance to get them right up into the air. And by the time they're up in the air, you will probably have that second player arriving who can kind of help bring them back down safely. Like 1-man lifts or something you'd see absolutely regularly in the game.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the weights here. I think trying to find Tadhg Byrne's weight. Sorry, but Henderson's weight is 117 and Tadhg Byrne's 113. So there's not that much difference.
Yeah, look, these guys, international props, they're well able to hoist someone up into the air if needed. 1 man, you'd see it quite often, I would say.
Sounds like a tough job.
That's why they're there. Well, look, we'll move on to the next one, which is Ireland's scrum. Ireland pretty much dominated the scrum at the weekend. Maka Vunipola gave away 2 penalties and a free kick in the first half. He was hauled off at half time. But I couldn't not talk about the scrum that led to the Tadhg Furlong celebration gif in the second half. England actually chose to scrum here, interestingly enough, after Ireland had given away a free kick at the initial one. Then we had a reset in which Ireland actually pretty much walked through England. So I think Matthew Raynell reset it, knowing that Ireland were pretty much on top, and kind of gave England a second chance to win back the ball. But we'll look at this first picture here. So to start with, I want to look at the contrast in the body shapes of the 2 packs, and specifically the 2 number 8s. So Jack Conan on your left, you could pretty much balance a pint of Guinness on his back the way he is set up. It's absolutely perfect. His back is parallel to the ground, head is level with his backside, hips are bent just beyond 90 degrees, and as we'd seen in previous weeks, arms are tucked in under his second rows like we spoke about. Now I want to look at Billy Vunipola. Head is below his hips, knees are in front of his arse. Basically, he's not really offering much support to that scrum whatsoever. Just the balance of power, the way it's coming through, like he's just not set up correctly. What you want is a flat back. You want your just over 90 degrees at the hips. But as you can see, it's pretty much an acute angle at the hips. His head is bent down low. He's driving into the ground while the rest of his team are driving straight along, and just not really offering that much support at all. The other bit to look at as well is the bind of both Tadhg Furlong and Ellis Genge, which we've highlighted here. Genge's bind is way too short. So as you can see, his elbow is pointing down towards the ground. What you want is for that elbow to be right up at head level, to be coming out towards the side, because when your bind is that short, it's much easier for a tight head to just pull you down and turn you inside, as we're going to see on the next clip here. As we see, that's exactly what Tadhg Furlong does. He shortens his bind down onto Genge's arm. Binding on the arm, look, it's not legal, but Genge is giving him pretty much an open goal to go for. And Furlong's then able to pull him in tight as he drives through. So Genge's left shoulder is now down below his right shoulder, so his weight isn't evenly distributed. He's got less power than he should have. The X, I should just say as well, that's just marking where the ball is. So as we can see, they haven't even got it back to the base of the scrum yet. So Genge is also having to help out with the hook. And then again, if we look at the number 8s, Jack Conan again hasn't changed an inch. He's driving straight along parallel to the floor, while Billy Vunipola is now standing up because the English scrum is starting to go backwards. Then we move on to our next slide, scrum number 3. So Ireland take advantage. They're marching through. What I do like about this, though, is that Cian Healy, and he's followed by the rest of his teammates as well, is that he just keeps walking straight up the pitch, leaving England behind. So a lot of scrummaging, it's about the pictures that you are painting for the referee. You're showing the referee what you want him to see. And a lot of the time when a scrum starts to wheel and one team is getting on top of the other, the dominant prop kind of tends to follow the other prop. So if you're going forward and all of a sudden your opposition prop starts to turn and wheel just to get out of danger, if you just keep following around, eventually you're not driving straight, and the referee could well just ping you and decide that you're kind of boring in at an angle. So what Healy is doing there is he's just decided to keep going straight no matter what happens. So Tadhg Furlong has started to turn, but Healy just pretty much drives out of the scrum. And if we move on to the next slide as well, we can see that all the Irish forwards have just decided to come straight through as well. They've decided not to follow where England are going. They're just going to go straight up the pitch. And if we move on to our next slide, we can actually just see from the other angle as well. Remember when I spoke about Ellis Genge's bind and how his elbow was pointing down towards the ground a couple of minutes ago? So This is what you can see from Cian Healy. This is where the elbow should be. It should be cocked out towards the left, with your arm essentially parallel to the ground and your elbow up at head height. That's what you want from your loose head, elbow cocked up into the air like that. And if we move it on to the next one, this is, as I said, about the way all the players just kept driving forward. This is just beautiful. Look at the uniformity of that. All 8 forwards, still, even after the scrum is turning, they're all driving in the same direction. Every single one of them parallel to each other. It's very, very easy once a scrum starts to turn for the second rows to kind of jackknife. Do you know the way when you'd see a truck jackknifing with, you know, the cabin of it going one way and the cargo going the other? That can happen a lot with second rows, where your front row driving one way and the second rows continue to drive straight, and you kind of get that jackknifing action. But for all of those players to drive straight through like that, it just sends a really, really good message to the referee. Look, he has the whistle in his mouth. He's ready to award the penalty anyway. But even for future games, it just paints really, really good pictures for the referee.
Why is Vunipola doing that at that stage of the game? Is it exhaustion? Why is his technique letting him down an hour into the match against Ireland?
I don't know. I'll be totally honest. Like, it really shouldn't. I think he's probably just a bit more concerned with, he's ready to just pick up the ball and make a break for it off the back of that scrum, or to pop it out to Ben Youngs or whoever is in at scrum half for that particular scrum. Like, I suppose Jack Conan is able to set up like that as well because he's the defensive number 8 in that situation. So he is pretty much just concentrating on driving the scrum. He's not necessarily worried about where the ball is going to be coming back. But like Vunipola, he doesn't have to be, you know, part of this 8-man shove. He doesn't have to be driving for his life. But just setting up correctly and being ready, just having your body at a correct angle is just very, very important.
Okay. That was the one that Tadhg Furlong ended up doing his Riverdance celebration.
Yes. Had to mention that one.
And then finally for now, the Lions, squad positions that are still wide open.
Yeah, so obviously we got the news yesterday that they're planning to go ahead as normal, and like everyone's been thrown together. What's my Lions 15? What's my Lions squad going to be after the close of the Six Nations? There's still so much rugby to play as well when you consider 4 more rounds of Champions and Challenge Cup as well, tail end of the Premiership to come as well, and the Pro 14 final and that Rainbow Cup with the South African sides. But there are a couple of positions, 3 actually I think in particular, where even selection for the wider squad is so open at the moment. Never mind who's actually going to nail down the starting position. One is loosehead prop, so if you think realistically they're probably going to take 3 loosehead props. I'm struggling to separate Wyn Jones, Rory Sutherland, Cian Healy and Mako Vunipola, and who is the one that misses out there. I think if you're actually going on form, Mako Vunipola is probably the least in form of those 4. Even someone like Ellis Genge as well would be interesting. But of those 4, like Mako Vunipola probably isn't in good form. I think the performance on Saturday will go against him as well, but he has all that experience as well. Wyn Jones has been excellent in the Six Nations. He's probably been the best loosehead prop over the course of the 5 rounds of games. Rory Sutherland is the loosehead prop everyone was talking about coming into the tournament. He's done a fine job. He hasn't kind of blown us away with his form, and I think he's probably still in the mix to definitely be in the squad, but someone high profile is going to be missing out of that 4. Also at scrum half, I think this one is completely wide open who you're going to be bringing. Are they going to be bringing 2 or 3 scrum halves? You've Ben Youngs, Gareth Davies, everyone is talking about after his performance over the last couple of games. Thomas Williams even. I'd like Wales have 3 contenders. Kieran Hardy was brilliant in the couple of games he got to play. Ali Price has been really good for Scotland. Conor Murray might have been on the periphery, but he put in an excellent performance at the weekend, and a few more consistent performances could put him back in the mix as well. Even Jamieson Gibson Park, if Warren Gatland wants something different as well. There are so many positions that are wide, so many places that are wide open there with scrum half. Out half as well. I think Owen Farrell is probably the only absolute guaranteed lock to be starting at out half or not starting even at out half, but to be in the squad at out half. Finn Russell, everyone was talking about him before the tournament. He hasn't really set the world alight, I'll be totally honest. Johnny Sexton, his last couple of games in the Six Nations were really, really good. He's brought himself back into it. Dan Biggar has been okay at times. Callum Sheedy is the outsider of that group as well. And then you even have someone like Joe Simmons in the Premiership who's not getting a look in, or Marcus Smith, who are turning up trees in the Premiership, but Eddie Jones isn't even looking at him. So I think there's going to be some really interesting calls and players to look out for over the next few weeks.
Okay, we've got like 30 seconds left here. The Leinster-Munster game is like not quite a final line selector, but there are some players who I think have the capability. If Conor Murray plays brilliantly at the weekend against Leinster and Munster win, then it's going to be very hard for Warren Gatland, who spent last week embedded with the team as Murray rediscovered his form and was key to Ireland beating England. Very hard for him not to pick him. Yeah,
I think so, and it's why I mentioned like Ben Youngs as well. I think you've a couple of players like that who they have so much experience that if they start showing those glimpses of form coming up into the summer, it's going to be very hard to look past them. Particularly as well, like Talupe Faletau is someone who timed his form coming back from injuries as well perfectly this year. He has all that experience, and again over the last couple of months he's been brilliant, and like he looks like a lock now to be in the Six Nations squad or in the Lions squad, and probably starting in the team as well. Yesterday you were predicting that you think that Munster are going to win this weekend. Are you sticking to that as the week goes on, getting more and more confident? Yeah, I think I will. I won't budge from it. I think their time is coming. I think Leinster, not that they're going to have one eye on winning the Champions Cup quarter or last 16 against Toulon, but I think this weekend, I think Munster are going to be eyeing this a little bit more than Leinster will be. I think for most Munster fans, if you offer them the opportunity to beat Leinster this weekend, if they were going to lose then the following week in their last 16 game against Toulouse, I think they would take it. Where I think if you were to say it to Leinster fans, they would say, no, I'd probably win next week against Toulon. They'd kill your granny for it, Neil, I believe is the phrase. Probably would, yeah. Yeah. And sure, look, that's what we need. That's what Irish rugby needs. Owen's been very quiet there, silently getting more and more confident as the week goes on that Munster are going to kill Leinster this weekend.
Yeah, like I mean, the grandmother killing is not something that maybe Munster have signed up for. You know, you can take that wherever you want. This is like there was an interesting reaction to your obvious campaign yesterday, because that's what it is. This sort of Leinster aren't favourites for this. Just wait until you see the team sheet and wait until you see the depth that Leinster do have. If you're coming at Neil with concerns about Leinster's fitness and all that, I mean, they're still going to be favourites. It's a bizarre campaign, to be honest. It's almost defeatist on your part, and there will be no satisfaction for you, and there will be no winning for you if you're right in the end, right in inverted commas, because you'll actually just been wrong, really. You'd have just, I guess, sowed seeds of doubt that may have actually resulted in Munster getting the job done.
They don't do Yeras in rugby, Owen. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Get the picture.
No,
that's
what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You're trying to Yera us all week here. On Friday, you're going to come out and you're going to be all in on Munster, but you're trying to build it up slowly. They don't do that in rugby.
No, they're confident. The back page of the Indo says that Joey Carberry's going to start this game. It's like, finally, these two teams are like fit for purpose to go against each other.
Yeah, like I'm making the point here that Gerard's been yerring away Leinster, and like I agree with you. That's not part of rugby culture. Gerard, take your GA background and go back to where you came from with it. Is what I'm saying.